Things Gary does. So it's New Year's Eve, 1999, in Utah, and I'm 11 years old. My dad and I are walking around the streets of our suburb, and the street is covered in a thick, awesome fog, which is very uncharacteristic of Utah, which just makes the night much more awesome. Now, being only 11 years old, though as tech-savvy as I was back then, I had a little bit of an idea of what this thing was people were calling, which was Y2K. And I understood it had something to do with computers and their clocks and how everything was going to just shut down and explode as soon as midnight struck, but it didn't really matter. My dad and I were just walking around with our flashlight, you know, doing lightsabers in the fog, and it was a night that left a very large impression on me. And that was my Y2K experience. That year, year 2000, changed my life. That was the year that my family moved from the house that I really grew up in as a child and into my new house, which was only a mile away, but like it was a new neighborhood, new people, new church, everything, and so it was just pretty much a whole new life for me. And that's what I remember about the year 2000. Not long after that, in junior high and high school, you know, you go into a bit more depth of history, and oddly enough, the time that stuck out most in my mind in the studies was the time of the conquistadors going over the Atlantic Ocean over into the Americas. And you know, you got Ponce de Leon, Hernan Cortez, Francisco Pizarro, all of these conquistadors that were interacting with all these different native tribes of America, and it was very dramatic, very awesome, and no doubt laid the foundations for my obsession with like science fiction, since the parallels are there in a way. And also with the conquistadors, you learn a lot about the native tribes, which the Aztecs, you know, became fascinated with the city of Tenochtitlan that was built on the river with all the moats and everything. That was really cool, and just the name Tenochtitlan, or I'm not even sure I'm saying it right, but it's really cool. And then obviously you have the Incans, who had the awesome, super cool, mysterious Machu Picchu, the great hidden city that wasn't discovered until much, much later, and it's just awesome. And I still need to get there. But of course, inevitably you learn about the Mayans. And the Mayans were very, very dramatic because they were, you know, very advanced, and they knew lots of crazy things about the stars and stuff, and most of all, they just vanished. They just disappeared. And it was that sort of idea that struck with me, and so beyond my studies, you know, I went out and researched it more and started learning about the calendar. And that was when I became familiar with December 21st, 2012. Now, I was still young at this point, and, you know, it was probably like 2001, 2002, and, you know, you bring up this date about some Mayan calendar, and people are like, what are you talking about? Like, the Mayans, isn't that just a restaurant or something where people dive off the cliffs in their Speedos? And you're like, no, it's the end of the world. And they're like, oh, okay, that's cool, man. And so, you know, after trying to talk to a few people about it, I started keeping my mouth shut, but it was always a date in the back of my mind. I was a bit of a paranoid child, and so that's just how my mind worked. So I had this date in my mind, and it was always like, it was so far in the future that it was almost not worth thinking about. But, you know, I definitely knew that in my lifetime I was going to be experiencing this date, and so it was always stuck there in my mind, and I was always thinking about it at some level. Sometimes I was like, oh, the world's totally gonna end and I'm gonna die, and other times I'm like, well, you know, it's just a day with a calendar and some things. But nowadays, everybody knows about December 21st, 2012, and I'm left in the hipster position of, well, I knew this a lot long before it was cool. But that's all besides the point. The important thing is, December 21st is this Friday. Now, I don't know if the world is actually going to end. That's not what this video is about, me debating of the thousands of different theories of what possibly could happen on Friday. And I was never one of those people that were like, I never made plans beyond 2013 and 2014, though those years still look kind of very odd to me when I see them in print. But despite all that, 2012 has definitely been a landmark for me. It's just been a landmark in my life. It's just been something that's always been there. That's I never like was convinced it was the end of the world, but I always had this feeling that it was the end of something, if that makes any sense whatsoever. And it just sort of helps the fact that, you know, Y2K, which wasn't like so much, you know, mystical peoples of yesteryear predicting the future, but like, you know, Y2K, I was 12, and now I'm 24, and you know, here's 2012. So it's like this really nice sort of chapter separation between the two. And provided that the world doesn't end, I feel like this is the beginning of a new chapter in a way. So that's what I've decided it will be. Friday the 21st will be the beginning of a new chapter for me. And while I doubt I'll be like moving away and going to a new everything, you know, it's just not, I don't think that's really gonna happen. But you know, I spent a lot of this last chapter, and while, you know, this last chapter in my life has been great. I've done a ton of things, I've learned a ton of things, you know, I had a lot of ups and downs all over the place and everything. But I feel like I've still spent a lot of it sitting. You know, I've always been aware of the possibilities of life. I've always, you know, had ideas of where I wanted to go, where I wanted to be, and the things I wanted to do. But I spent a lot of time sitting on my hands and, you know, like, oh, you know, that'll happen, that'll happen, that'll happen. And, you know, I think in the scheme of, like, life stages, like, you know, the beginning, first stage, you know, before Y2K was getting used to, like, living and how to function as a person, and then, you know, that second part is, like, trying to form yourself as a person and trying to understand who you are. And, while, you know, I'm not still perfectly there, I've got a good number of things nailed down, some important things, but now I feel like this next chapter needs to be about doing things, needs to be about utilizing the things that I've learned and the things that I've done so far, and becoming the person and entity that I want to be, that I feel that I can be. So over the next 2 days, before the 21st, I'm going to be considering a number of things. I'm going to be considering my goals, my commitments, where I am now, loose ends from this last chapter, and where I want to be come the end of this chapter, whether that's 2024 or what. Which, by the way, on April 8th, 2024, there will be a total eclipse that will be going over the United States, so that'll be a good enough, like, extra end-of-the-world motivator. Maybe I can attach some sort of calendar from, I don't know, ants in the Paleolithic theory or something, or whatever. And as an extra note, because of this last November when I did the 30 Days project where I made a video every day, learning from that, I found that I was a lot more focused and that I felt more fulfilled when I did videos on a regular basis and had something to sort of keep me in check about the things that I promise to do and the things that I say I'll do. And so with that, I intend to, from henceforth, from the 21st, I'm going to be making a YouTube video every Wednesday, or releasing a video every Wednesday until whenever, for as long as it is viable for me to continue making videos and posting them on YouTube. So that's it. That's 2012 to me. It is no longer, even though it was for a long time, the fear, paranoia thing of just like, oh, the end of the world. It has since grown into something that has helped me understand my life in better chunks, and is going to benefit me now in helping me propel myself into this new life that I'm trying to create for myself. So that's it. And so provided that, you know, the magnetic poles don't flip, the oceans don't flood, that aliens don't come down and blow us up, that we don't blow ourselves up from our own paranoia, I will see you next Wednesday. It might be a little late since it's the day after Christmas and I might be getting home from a long trip or something, so it might be a little late on that day, but there will be a video provided that there is a video there, or provided that there's a place to put the video. So look forward to that, and I will look forward to seeing you. And let me know what you think about 2012, if you think it's a crock of stuff, or whatever. I just want to hear from you, okay? Alright. Have a good couple days, and be safe. Bye-bye. Things done.